Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. Back to Shakesyear in my original, well, my most recent studio for it. But anyway, welcome back. We are working on the birth of Merlin. And today we're going to get to hear from Clown in Act 3, Scene 4. So Act 3, Scene 3, we just had this very visual representation of the birth of a baby, but the actual birth happened off stage. The devil called forth the fates, and there was a dance number and all this sort of stuff, and then the fates come back and they say, we've endowed this baby with wisdom and also made it so that this baby was born full adult size with all the faculties of an adult. And the devil's like, yeah, that kid's gonna be famous, and we're gonna name him Merlin Sylvester, because what better name to give a magical baby than Merlin Sylvester? And honestly, if it was me, I might put the act break there. If I was doing a production of this, I might say, okay, Act 1, now everybody go to intermission and come on back now. But that's totally your call, and that's neither here nor there. Today, the clown kicks off Act 3, Scene 4. He's wandering around and he says, well, I wonder how my poor sister does after all this thundering. I think she's dead, for I can hear no tidings of her. Those woods yield small comfort for her. I could meet nothing but a swineherd's wife keeping hogs by the forest side, but neither she nor none of her sows would stir a foot to help us. Indeed, I think she durst not trust herself amongst the trees with me, for I must needs confess I offered some kindness to her. Well, I would fain know what's become of my sister. If she have brought me a young cousin, his face may be a picture to find his father by. So, oh, Sister Joan! Joan, go to it, where art thou? So he's kicking things off, setting the scene once again, which is another reason why this might be a good place to put an act break if you were to actually perform this. But he's like, I wonder how my sister's doing. There was this terrible storm. The forest isn't really good for her. I can't find anybody in the forest except for this woman who keeps hogs. And I, sort of propositioned her, but she said no, because she didn't trust herself around me because I'm so hot. That's what that whole little mid-section of this was about. But then he's like, I want to know where my sister is. If the baby's been born, maybe we'll be able to tell by looking at the baby who the father is, because maybe the baby will look like the father. So he calls out for Joan, and Joan replies, and he's like, oh, thank goodness she's alive. And she comes in with Merlin, who's a full-grown adult with a beard, and he's reading a book. And she's like, what are you reading? And he's like, I'm just gathering knowledge and wisdom and art and all these sorts of things. And she introduces, or the clown comes over, he's like, who's this? And she's like, this is my son. And Merlin's like, oh, hello, uncle. And she's like, you know him? And he's like, yeah, I recognize my uncle, or at least I know the pains that he went to try to find my father with you. And the clown is like, wait a second, you're like a full-grown adult. There's no way that you recognize me as being your uncle. And he's like, yeah, I recognize you, and I know you just as well as I know that you propositioned the woman that keeps hogs over there. And the clown is rather taken aback by that, but he's like, okay, so all right, if this is indeed, like, let me check, is your belly gone? Are you still pregnant? Like, because he obviously is taken aback by the fact that his brand new nephew is an adult already who's a little bit snarky. So he's like, all right, well, where's your father? And Merlin's like, I'll go get him, and brings back in the devil. And the clown is like, wait a second, we went around and we were looking everywhere to try to find a man that fit your description, and it was actually this ragamuffin with a face like a frying pan. He literally says that the devil is a ragamuffin with a face like a frying pan. And she's like, oh, no, look at him more kindly. He's actually better looking than that. And the clown is like, yeah, you're his father, the devil you are, kind of thing, working the puns of the devil being his father as best he can. But the devil starts to talk a little bit like, you'll have everything that you need, and I'll take very good care of the son. And if what you really want is for me to marry her, because the clown does say something about, like, until you marry my sister, she's just your prostitute. And the devil's like, well, if you really want that, that's fine, but I'll take care of everyone. I'll take care of all of you. You'll want for nothing for the rest of your lives. And Merlin is going to be famous moving forward. He's going to do great things for Britain, but first he needs to go to Wales and help the Welsh king there. So then the devil leaves. And Merlin's like, are you coming along, uncle? And the clown gets a moment by himself on the stage at the very end where he's like, I'm sort of starting to think that maybe that's the devil that impregnated my sister and is the father of my nephew. Because, his horns may have been hidden under his hat, but I could sort of see his cloven foot. And that's the end of Act 3, Scene 4. So, a nice, funny way to show us that Merlin has been born. He's an adult. His dad is the devil. The clown isn't quite buying it. But it also, it makes the devil a little less scary and a little more maybe conniving and manipulative in this scene, which I think is kind of interesting. But anyway, so that's the end of Act 3, Scene 4, and come on back tomorrow to see where else this play is going to go. Because remember, we've got a couple other plot lines that we also need to deal with. And now we've got the introduction of a Welsh king as well. So plenty still to go, and I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.